Thanks once again for joining us. Today's focus is the 3-day rule for Tesla and the impact on the stock price of that rule. This is Greg for... Thanks once again for joining us. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Today's focus is the 3-day rule's impact as the big dogs want to eat on Tesla's stock. So there's this whole plan that I had for a major league production, and we're planning a bunch of things. But in the meantime, everything's moving away from us, and we want to make sure we had an information flow regarding letting you know our thoughts on why and where the stock goes and why. So we want to particularly make sure we thank our likes and subscribes. Also want to thank our Patreon supporters. We actually sent them a long note this morning anticipating this growth in the stock price, especially with Morgan Stanley giving it an upgrade to 540. So I'm choosing to do this show actually right now because Mr. Schindler, I've been planning a show about the 3-day rule and how it affects the stock price. And we've been slow because we wanted to try to make sure everything was perfect that we're doing. And in the meantime, the stock price is moving away from us. And so I wanted to get on here and make sure that we kind of broke down what's going on for you, because I expect you to make $1 million in the next 30 days. And the way you're going to do that is loading up on the call options on Tesla and writing it into the entry of the S&P. And so it's hard to get that done if I haven't done the show to discuss how it's going to all work. Wanted to note for those of you who are subscribers or Patreon supporters, we actually have a series of videos, if you're at least at the $50 level, that help you understand options better so you can employ options in the process of doing some trading, getting towards your $1 million. I do believe if Tesla, let's put it this way, if you put up 100 grand and in options purchases and Tesla makes the run, let's say to 550 from where it is now, that's at least triple, maybe quadruple your money. And if you're doing money on money, I think $1 million is possible in the next month. So that's why I wanted to get on right now and talk about this. Now, I just wanted to note for those of you who don't like make money and want to be mean and say ugly things, we don't, I'm really focused on, I have a lot of really good people that have been with us for the last 4 or 5 years. And most of those folks have made a lot of money, and we want you to be one of those people. So if what we do on the channel you're not happy with, I want to encourage you to do another channel, because we do have a good group of people who want to learn, who want to leverage what we know to make money as well as support the success of Tesla. And so if you're a hater, just go elsewhere, because now I get a chance to focus on the people who are serious and don't want to play around. So all that said, I got a call yesterday after, so as you know, Tesla's stock price went high, like 460, fell back, 440-ish, and then it finished up about 445. When it was in the 440-ish dropping below, I got a call from one of the folks in our trading group, and he asked me, he's like, Greg, what's going on here? We only have till Friday till expiration. We're all in on Tesla right now and in Amazon, and we're trying to figure out, should we bail now? And he asked me about the 3-day rule. So for the next 5 minutes, I want to review what the 3-day rule is. So if you don't want to know or hear this again, just skip to about 9 minutes. We're at 4:07 right now. So I've been trading on and off for about 25 years. And there's a problem I ran into which really ticked me off. And what it was is that you'd have a big block of news, be it earnings or some other major thing like the S&P going on right now. And all of a sudden the stock price would run up nicely and you're like, oh, I can make some money here. And then you buy in this case, let's say at the 460 for Tesla, and then the stock price promptly goes from 460 to 440. You're like, oh, I missed the run. It happened overnight. The big guys got a hold of it. And so after this happened to me, about 50 times over a 2 to 3 year period, I came up with this weird theory called the 3-day rule, and this is how it works. So anytime a major event happens, there's certain companies that are important, and there are a number of analysts that cover them. So I'm extending. So what ends up happening in this process is that the analysts will individually have models that they've built to estimate what the stock price should be, where it's going over time. And then when this new event happens, each of those analysts will update their models. And then they'll go from there in terms of redoing those models for what the pricing is going to be. So why I bring this up is that what we found was that there's a rule that I call the 3-day rule. And the way the process works is day one, something happens. So yesterday, S&P announced at the end of the day. So what happens is all the analysts will scramble to redo their models. Everything is going on at the same time here. Hey, I'm doing a show right now. I need to finish in about 10 minutes, and then I'll be ready to go. So come on in and let me finish my show, and then we can go from here. Okay? Wow. So I apologize for the delay. A lot of things happening all at the same time. So what the 3-day rule is about is the fact that, number one, the analysts will have the redo completed within 24 hours, maybe a little bit longer. What then happens is there are these people called money managers. So what a money manager is about, what a money manager does is that a money manager is making $2, $3, $5, $10 million a year. What his job is to simply gather up his knowledge and research of that subject, and then his next move is to I'll call you. His next job is to his next task is to evaluate, is there information among what's on the table for him to figure out what to do next. And so these guys have a certain process. All they do is gather those reports, and then they use those reports to see if what's being done is in line with what they think should be done. What then happens is there's a process that happens where the next stage in the process is after they gather a report, they actually have a committee meeting of other fund managers they may work with or other consultants that are within house and review those reports to see if there's anything in there that's new, different that they should consider. So once they go through the process I just described, they decide, oh, we're ready to buy. Now this process theoretically takes about 2 days, and in the third day is when you see the buying patterns that come from what's seen. Usually what happens is the reports prepared by the analysts are not, there's no activity right that first day, because if you jump too early in, you potentially get in early and make more money, but you also potentially get in and blow up your performance numbers and hurt your fund. So that's why they tend to wait. And so the third day is where you really see the action. So I think Thursday, Friday are the days where we'll really see the start of the power up action that we'll see for Tesla's stock price based on the S&P entry that we're facing right now. So what I wanted to review with you in general is the fact that, yes, there is a 3-day rule in effect right now. We're starting to see the stock price run. I think this is a huge opportunity to get into Tesla and ride it. Clearly, if you own the stock, you're in great shape. You don't have to worry about it. What you really want to do is own the options, because you get 10 times the return that you get on the stock. And so we actually have, again, if you're signed up on our Patreon, we have a series of videos to get you up the learning curve on trading options. And then, we'll do a subgroup as well to sort of answer questions if you want to get into that space. But I do believe that we're going to have a nice run on the stock. And I think it's an opportunity to make a lot of money if you're interested in that. But owning the stock is fine. You could just ride that out as well. So one of the weird things that's happening with this run is that there's kind of a 3-day run rule happening early. Usually what happens is the analysts will write their reports and then they immediately send those reports to all the big funds that are paying for the report, or they alternately might pay for those reports by sending trading business towards those firms. So in this case, I'm a bit surprised. What usually happens is the analysts will actually give the report to their large institutions, allow them to buy first. Then, after the institutions have had a chance to get into the stock, then they'll start this process of, oh, we'll release this information to the general public so we can all trade it. Now, if you like the stock, like Tesla in this case, and you're looking forward to it exploding, then you obviously could get in earlier and ride that train a lot better than other folks could, because you're sort of thinking through the process, know what you want to do, know the stock you're working with, and kind of go from there. So what is going to happen here? Well, what should happen is we have a 20% increase from around the 400 where it was at. We surveyed a bunch of different people, including some advisors to the show, on what they thought would happen. And one of them was saying, well, Tesla has done already pretty well, and everybody knew eventually we'd get in the S&P, but not right now. So what I wanted to review is just the fact that we're in a situation right now where there's what the stock is doing, and then there's what the technical analysis says it should be doing. The two things don't always go hand in hand. Sometimes the stock can actually run way ahead of what the analysts have predicted. So the large institutions have major league coverage all the way up to 540, meaning that if Morgan Stanley says Tesla's good to 540, and your hedge fund, primary mutual fund, hedge funds tend to do their own research, even though they do read those reports. But in terms of the mutual funds, pension funds, all those guys, they'll be buying that stock as it's rising all the way into the 500 range. And as it gets to 540, 600, whatever, they could argue, hey, the analyst said to us that buying up to 540 was good because the stock would likely get there, if not go further. So I'm kind of bringing this up to you because institutions control 60% of the money that's invested, the trend is that what they tend to do has a bigger impact than what the other 40% does. So in theory, Elon controls 20, he ain't selling anything. So there's about 20% for hedge funds and individuals, and that 20% will be in motion based on what the 60% do. So in essence, it's like following a tractor trailer wherever it's going, So part of the process of investing in Tesla and any stock is understanding how institutions view it, and how do you modify what you're doing to ride in the wake of what those big firms are doing, because it can be very lucrative, which is kind of what we're looking at currently. So what I wanted to sort of emphasize right now is I think this is a huge opportunity for us. I have heard some things negatively from some of my analyst friends of it may have already made its complete run. It may already, there's a whole bunch of, noise there that is valid analysis. Is the entry in S&P fully priced in, number one? Number two, there is some market volatility that might be kind of negative, that's out there. So when I look at something, I don't sit there and say, oh, this is what I think, and what I think is the gospel. They get a lot of hate mail from you guys because there's a concept in calculus called triangulation, and the idea is you look at entities from multiple directions to try to understand what might occur, and then you make your decision. So what we try to do is really emphasize that as a scientific method in this process. So I know what I want to do, which is to buy and hold on Tesla, as I think it's going to do very well. But I think if you're going to be thorough and comprehensive, you always want to get second opinions in case there's an angle of things that you thought was not good. So don't send me any hate mail if you don't like a thorough method of review, because it's not that I hate Tesla, it's that I just think that it's prudent to always be considerate of a lot of variables that could influence the success or not success of the stock. So where do we go from here? So the way my 3-day rule process works is right at day 3 is when we see the biggest sort of jump in for the buyers for those from the institutions. What then starts happening after that is that days 3 to 5, 3 to 7, you start to see, okay, people are buying, and there are a lot of people that have to buy big amounts of shares, so they're doing this in kind of a wave situation. There are entities out there, as we've talked about numerous times, there's $31 trillion in funds that are right on the S&P or 500 or around there, and all of that money has to find a way to sink Tesla into that situation. So what I'm getting at with all of this is just the fact that there's a huge pool of capital that has to come in. So regardless of what your fundamental analysis is, there's something called supply and demand. Only a certain number of shares and supply, and if the demand is increased perhaps by 50%, in theory, you should have a nice run for this stock, and the run could exceed what the analysts should exceed what the analysts are suggesting it might be. So I bring all this up today because we want you to make money. We want you to do extremely well. And the way we're going to do that is to make sure that you take the time to definitely buy some stock. We've already covered that. Also, try to look at the options if you can afford to get into it. You may want to look at that because you get 10 times the return on your money. We actually will help you with your knowledge gain. You can drop us a note and we can help you in the process of learning about options and how to trade them effectively in this space. But I just think that this is a wonderful opportunity if you're into Tesla, want to see it do well, etc. So I guess I'm looking for the downside, but I just think that, there's a little bit nervousness yesterday whether or not we would see the 3-day rule play out. But as these big institutions now have to do their institutional purchases, even with the market down, Tesla's stock price is up and up dramatically. And so I think it's a very exciting time. Under the 3-day rule, this is only day 2, but I have to admit the analysts are sort of breaking protocol because usually people like Morgan Stanley will not give you the report prior to it being carefully read and traded by their large institutional clients. And so that is somewhat of an unusual. Now, does the 3-day rule always work? The answer is no. However, what we've found is that we have a large group of people on our channel that have done extremely well by both understanding and implementing the 3-day rule process in their investing/trading. Where do we think things are going from here? Well, I hate to admit it, but I have said 600 I thought was a target. Morgan Stanley is saying 540 in that range. I believe that we could definitely have, anywhere from a 50 to 100 point run here. And during that time is your opportunity to triple your money. So if you're interested in a really nice Christmas for you and your family, I think this is your chance to dive in. Now, we're in a concentrated period for the next, 2 days or so. So I will update you, and I think we may end up with a show a day as we go through this to make sure we keep you apprised of what's going on. We have other news happening with Tesla we'd like to present, and you'll hear from us as that happens. At any rate, this is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Just a reminder, 25 leg lifts. Sit in a chair, put a 5-pound weight on your leg and lift it 25 times. The second is don't forget to go to bed no earlier than 2 hours, best 4 hours to let the food digest. No acid reflux or other issues with the stomach acids digesting you. Also wanted to encourage you to try to establish a good circadian rhythm sleep process. And finally, we wanted to encourage you to, if you're going to do lovemaking, have a salad for that meal because it would lead blood flow for other things and your stomach is not negatively impacting those other activities. Any rate, I just want to say thank you again for joining us. Tschüss, German, au revoir, French, lehit road, Hebrew, choda hafez, Farsi, and in Jamaica we say enough respect, walk good. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day, and bye for now.